see now. We're good. If I can see, I can hear.
Welcome to the August 14th Board of Trustee meeting. We will begin the meeting as we do every time with a Pledge of Allegiance followed by a moment of silence. Tonight our moment of silence is for the victims of the war in the Middle East. No matter what side you're on, there are still victims, there are children, there are women, there are innocents being massacred. So please keep them in your prayers. Stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, we'll start out with the approval of the minutes, Mr. Luby.
We have a motion to approve the minutes from the July 30, 2024 regular meeting.
So moved?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Approval of the minutes, approved.
Motion to approve the payment of overtime for pay period ending August 6, 2024.
So moved?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Overtime approved.
Motion to approve bills for payment.
So moved?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Motion approved. Report from fiscal officer?
The only significant transaction I have is our payroll on August 1st was $334,000. That's all I have.
Okay, great. Trustee correspondence, Trustee Seavey.
I'd just like to welcome back all of our students this week. And as a reminder to all of us driving around the schools in the township, please pay attention, because a lot of these children are new to the area or new to the school, and they don't always look both ways. So please watch for our children around the schools. And before you get started, yes, we're still going to have a traffic jam on Nabe Road in front of C.O. Harrison. Is that correct, Chief? Yeah. So patience, or go a different way, because the C.O. Harrison traffic is a real jam up. But please welcome our children back to school and drive safely. Thank you.
Trustee Davis.
I have two, actually. One was something that I noticed on social media over the weekend, which I thought was interesting, and it was about cutting the grass at your neighbor's house, or other people cutting other people's grass since it's grown so much, and they might have been cited for the grass, but because of the process and the way it goes with what the law requires, or as we wait for those 30 days, whatever it is, and someone else decides to cut the grass. And it was interesting following a dialogue that so-called experts were having on social media as far as what people are allowed to do, not allowed to do. And someone said something, well, you better watch it, because if you go cut that grass and it's not your yard, you could get arrested or whatever it was, which I thought was interesting. Certainly we're not looking to do that, but certainly we respect other people's property, whether it's a private homeowner or the bank owns it or whatever. But my concern was when you go to cut someone else's grass, it might delay the process, because you're cutting the front, but the grass in the back stays up and whatever. And I get it. Trust me. Wanting to, if it's your yard or your street and you're trying to keep things nice and you got this going on, but someone keeps dodging getting the grass cut, or it turns into the nuisance, which you'll see several tonight. But there was something that concerned me. Somebody went and cut it, which I love, the neighborly thing. I love that you're going to reach out and help your neighbor. To me, that's what Delhi's been about. That's what we are. But taking machinery and things like that, my concern was, if you do that, just be careful, because, and I say this, we know what the rules are, but if you take machinery or heavy machinery and you end up crushing a gas line or a water line because you were on that property, I'm curious where that goes and grows from there as you cut the grass. And people were great about that, and trust me, if I was that neighbor, I would have been applauding too, just to have the yard look nice. And some of these people play the game, if you would, with our zoning and maintenance and trying to keep the properties looking nice. They get served and then they wait and then they cut and then they wait to get served again. So we don't want that. But Chief, or I don't know who would answer. I know that Tony's not here, but I just thought it was an interesting thing. And as I said, I love that people want to help each other out, and that's what we're about. But I throw a caution out. But where's that stand, Chief Braun? What do you think?
Well, obviously, I wouldn't say there's any criminal culpability there, with somebody obviously
Agreed.
going on the property for, to help a neighbor out. But as far as if they damage something while they're there, obviously, civilly, they could be held liable for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know that, and the whole thing came about because they put a picture of the house with the grass, and they said, hey, Delhi, can you get this fixed? Which we scream to our heads are red here, saying, this is how you do the process. Call any one of us. If you see a property that needs help, call us, and we will get it going. None of us like, as our council said, none of us like having to do these zoning and these maintenance and trying to go through this to try and get you just to cut your grass or keep things clean. But again, we worked together there, and it got a little bit contested and a little bit heated online, and there's no place for that. We're all together here, and we want to help each other out. But again, just be careful, be smart, and again, we try to stay on our neighbors. But this property was owned apparently by the bank, and no one's there. And how would you like to live next to 2 feet of grass and everything else that's growing in that grass or running around? That's one. The other one was the issue that was brought up that was pretty hotly contested, was the whole car breaking in and the proper lighting and things. And I don't know if you, Mr. Schuyler, if you're going to be talking about that, or who can talk about that, because there was a lot as far as wondering who's going to pay for lighting and what about cameras. And of course, and people are saying, there's no cameras up there? I can't believe it. Yes, we have cameras all over. We're on cameras now. All of these public entrances, just for public safety and such, are. But as far as up there in the parking lots and such and where that stands, do we have an official statement of where that all stands? The one thing that I don't like, and I'm sure I speak for the other electeds, when they start saying, Delhi's not going to do this, and the departments are not going to do that, and we're stuck in the middle. No, there's no such thing as that. We will find the right remedy, but we got to put our heads together. So I'm just curious, do we know where it stands tonight? Are they going to put cameras up? Are they looking to do that? Are we looking to do that? And how that works?
Do we want a discussion now or an administrative report?
Are you discussing it then? That's
I will certainly bring it up.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
Good. That's good. No, I have nothing else, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, and I have
Madam Chair,
none.
if I
Yes,
may,
yes,
to
please.
Mr. Davis's first point, which I appreciate, so I understand the neighborly wanting to address the problem. And I have understand that from a factual and a human standpoint. On the other
Is
hand,
your mic on?
yes. On the other hand, I would caution folks, and I'm not giving anybody legal advice, I'm simply cautioning folks that if you don't have permission to be on someone's property, you're trespassing. Now, whether it gets charged or whether there's criminal liability there, those are different questions. But you are trespassing, and as Mr. Davis pointed out originally, as Chief Braun confirmed, regardless of criminal culpability or liability, if you do damage while you're on somebody's property, you're likely to be responsible for it. So be aware of all those issues, and that's why you don't undertake self-help as much as it might be needed. There's a process. The township is following it. The township would, A, not like to do these at all, but B, when they get involved, they have processes that they have to follow. They simply cannot go on, say a grass is too long, and send somebody out there within 5 minutes. There are due process concerns. They're written in the statute that we have to follow. Again, as we've talked many times, when I became the law director in 2019, I complimented the township on its nuisance enforcement policies and practices, and your prior law director for setting them up, and the township for following them. And you ought to be lauded in your model. Having said that, you have to follow the process, and we simply can't go in any sooner, even if it's merited or warranted. I would caution folks, again, not giving legal advice, I just simply say, when you go on someone else's property without their permission and without a license to do so, that's a trespass. And I would also ask folks that other people may look at your yard and say, that doesn't look so good either, and I'm darn sure they wouldn't like somebody coming on their property to mow it, or whatever else. So I would say everybody needs to caution, let the process play out. We'll do our job. The trustees do an excellent job. They don't want to, but they follow the process that's put in front of them to declare nuisances and to take care of it within the process of the law. Thank you.
Yeah, and as I said, it's frustrating for all of us. Absolutely. You know, when you see this and you see some of the homeowners are doing, just letting it grow, not caring. And like I said, the fact that a local business owner stepped up and said, you know what, I'm tired of it. I'll go make a difference. Great. On so many levels, and at the same time, you got to be careful. And so thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and I have nothing. So we will go to our public hearing, please. Mr. Libby.
We have a motion to open the public hearing for nuisance appeal to Resolution 2024-97.
So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Libby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, the hearing is now open. We will start out with having a presentation of the facts and the findings. Unfortunately, Mr. Roach could not be here, so Mr. Miller is going to present.
Thank you, Trustee Sturts. So this board passed Resolution 2024-097 declaring a junk motor vehicle at the property of 755 Gilcrest Lane. That resolution was acted upon by our zoning department. They provided notice and also provided the appeal information to the property owner. Property owner chose to take that appeal on. This is what we're looking at. June 13th was, I believe, early on in the enforcement process. You can see it's an incomplete vehicle that doesn't meet the definition of junk motor vehicle. August 14th, today, I asked for a follow-up just to confirm that the property was still in a general similar state. So this, again, met all the definitions of a nuisance, and the trustees did act on this. So I believe that there's been some discussion between the property owner and Tony regarding definitions within the zoning resolution, and I'd like to address any questions or comments that the applicant has.
Okay, so we do have present tonight Mr. Christopher Jagadich, is that the correct spelling? 755 Gilcrest Lane. All right.
Resolution 2024-97 alleges a nuisance regarding a red Dodge Durango parked in the rear yard at my residence located at 755 Gilcrest Lane. The vehicle in question was moved to the rear yard on June 8, 2024 to accommodate temporary parking needs. On June 13, 2024, a neighbor allegedly reported it as a nuisance to the Delhi Township Zoning Commission. The complaint was registered and investigated on that same morning. I've requested a copy of this formal complaint and have yet to receive a copy. Delhi.oh.us, the Delhi Township website, features a frequently asked questions page. The first question on this page asks, does the township have a property maintenance code? The answer, paraphrased, no, but the township has adopted nuisance regulations which prohibit inoperative motor vehicles which are wrecked, disassembled, and or unable to operate under their own power and have been in such condition for a period of 30 or more days. The condition of the vehicle had existed for 5 days at the time of the complaint. The complaint was registered and action executed 25 days premature according to the information provided by this township and its website. This answer also contradicts the definition of vehicle storage as found in the Delhi Zoning Resolution, Article 24.2, where vehicle storage is the storage of operative and inoperative vehicles, including tow yards, impound yards, and storage lots for automobiles, trucks, buses, and recreational vehicles. Does not include vehicle or equipment repair activities or vehicle dismantling or salvage. The dismantling of a vehicle, by your own definition, is not considered storage. Black's Law Dictionary says that storage can refer to goods and materials that are being held or contained for long term but are not in transit. Storing can also mean keeping merchandise for safekeeping, with the main purpose being to deliver it in the same condition as when it was received, rather than for consumption or sale. The vehicle condition is ever-changing by nature of being systematically disassembled. The condition of its keeping is not to maintain its original state and is not considered stored as alleged. The vehicle in question is a red 2000 Dodge Durango RT. Vehicle equipment from the factory includes 17-inch alloy wheels, a 233 all-wheel drive transfer case, 925 limited slip differential with 391 gears, a 5.9-liter Magnum V8, and a larger 2.5-inch high-flow exhaust, leather-embroidered interior that is model-specific, and a lowered and tuned suspension, to name a few. These are things that make the vehicle worth seeking out. Collectors like these vehicles. The RT models of the Durango and Dakota are highly sought after and often imitated. It is a collector's vehicle. A collector's vehicle is defined in the Ohio Revised Code, Section 4501-01, to mean any motor vehicle or agricultural tractor or traction engine that is of special interest, that has fair market value of $100 or more, whether operable or not, that is owned, operated, collected, preserved, restored, maintained, or used essentially as a collector's item, leisure pursuit, or investment, but not as the owner's principal means of transportation. Ohio Revised Code Section 505.173A states that no resolution shall prevent a person from storing or keeping or restrict the method of storing or keeping any collector vehicle on private property, except that the person may be required to conceal by means of buildings, fences, vegetation, terrain, or other suitable screening any unlicensed collector vehicle stored in the open. An exception to this is where 505.173C applies, and a vehicle is declared a junk motor vehicle by meeting all three requirements of 505.173E. It must be 3 model years or older, apparently inoperable, and extensively damaged, including but not limited to any of the following: missing wheels, tires, engine, or transmission. The vehicle does not meet all three criteria necessary to be declared a junk motor vehicle, and the method of keeping may not be prevented or restricted. The vehicle is not wrecked. All major components are present and in good working order. The vehicle is in a state of disassembly and kept as a leisure pursuit and investment. Resolution 2024-97 states that the vehicle is to be removed or stored within a garage. A garage, as defined by the Delhi Zoning Resolution, Article 24.2, is an accessory building or portion of a building, including carports, which are intended for use for storing motor vehicles and personal property. Such space shall be subordinate in area to the residential living quarters and in which no business, service, or industry is performed. Carport is otherwise undefined. Patio is undefined. Article 15.1A covers new and expanded uses. The requirements of this article shall only apply to buildings or uses constructed or established after the effective dates of the resolution. The effective date of the resolution was 12 April 2021. The area in which the vehicle is kept fits the definition of garage as established by the zoning resolution and has been used as such since as early as October 2018 with no lapses of use greater than 2 years. The vehicle was moved from the yard on June 15, 2024, as was planned upon my return from being out of town. This move took place 23 days before a junk motor vehicle would have been considered a nuisance by the standards set forth on the Delhi Township website. This vehicle is kept on a covered concrete pad attached to my home, featuring 3 walls concealing its view from the roadway and most of the neighboring property. Vegetation lining the rear perimeter conceals view from the property adjacent to the west. John Schill and Anthony Roach were informed of this on June 17, 2024. Mr. Roach declined to resolve the matter. Mr. Schill arrived at my property on June 21, 2024 to perform a follow-up inspection. Mr. Schill was greeted at my front door where we discussed the Ohio Revised Code and the Delhi Zoning Resolution and related topics. Mr. Schill was presented with much of the same information I have already covered this evening. Mr. Schill noted that I was very well read on the subject matter and that a very strong and valid argument had been presented. Mr. Schill recommended that I reached out to his superior, Tony, and provide this information to him and have the matter resolved. Mr. Schill declined further access to my property, and to my knowledge, no inspection was performed relative to the red Dodge Durango. I attempted to contact Tony several times by phone and in person. When Mr. Roach finally responded, he was presented again with the same information. Mr. Roach stated that his opinion on the matter was set and that facts would not change his mind. Mr. Roach contends that his position gives his opinion a heavier weight than the laws, codes, and regulations of the state of Ohio and this township. Mr. Roach's disregard of these laws, codes, and regulations and his decision to pursue this matter after being presented with facts and evidence is harassment. This willful and unprovoked negligence is conduct unbecoming of a representative of this board, the zoning commission, and the community they serve. Mr. Roach should be removed from his position if he can't separate his personal feelings and beliefs from the job he has been entrusted to do. He should at a minimum be reprimanded and placed on probationary status for his actions. The complaint was filed and registered prematurely and was baseless. The Zoning Commission did not follow its own established guidelines and procedures and showed wanton disregard for the facts when presented to them. The vehicle in question regarding Resolution 2024-97, a red Dodge Durango RT, is not a junk motor vehicle as defined by the ORC 505-173E. It is not being stored as defined by the Delhi Zoning Resolution. The vehicle in question is a collector vehicle as defined by ORC 505-173A and is being kept in a garage as defined by the Delhi zoning resolution.
Okay, we will address the issue of the junk motor vehicle. Any other personnel stuff does not pertain
Oh, I am
tonight.
curious, was there a photo involved?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Do you see the photos up on the?
All right.
Is that the vehicle?
Yeah, August 14th is how it is currently stored.
But it wasn't up until that point.
That's how it's been stored since
You said June
the
15th?
15th.
Okay. So on June 13th, when the first picture was taken, which is what was presented for us,
Yes.
it was sitting in your backyard exposed.
Yes, that's where I had moved it for a temporary parking need and then returned it to where it is parked currently, where I work on most of my vehicles.
So you have, are you running a business out of your home that you're
No,
doing
ma'am.
these kind of vehicles? Okay.
I enjoy vehicles, anything
your
with a
hobby.
motor and wheels.
It's your hobby.
Yes, ma'am, it's a
It's
hobby.
interesting to you. Okay. All right. So do we have a response, Mr. Miller, to the issue of the,
That was a lot of information to take
Yeah.
on that I haven't seen yet, but I'll try and break down kind of the heart of the matter. First off, this is not a zoning issue. It's a public nuisance issue under 505, not 519. So I'm going to set aside any disagreements or interpretations of the zoning code for this point. To the gentleman's point, there is a definition of a junk motor vehicle under 505.87, excuse me. Yeah, 173.
173?
So this is the three criteria in determining if there's a junk motor vehicle. 3 model years or older, apparently inoperable, extensively damaged, including but not limited to any of the following: missing wheels, tires, engine, or transmission.
And that is the criteria that it does not meet. The vehicle is not damaged, it is disassembled.
I would make the determination that that's an inoperable vehicle. It is a junk motor vehicle.
It is not
That's- that-
damaged, it is
that is-
disassembled. And the ORC and your own definitions in your zoning resolution cover that. I am allowed to disassemble my vehicle. It is hidden from view. You cannot see it from the street. You cannot see it from most other properties unless you really want to look for it.
So you're
I
saying
am covered.
in
I am allowed to
just-
disassemble and restore a vehicle.
So it was in the backyard when they made this determination, correct?
Yes,
So it wasn't
25
enclosed?
days prematurely, yes.
And it's now being stored under your patio that you're now using as a garage carport?
That I've been doing since 2018, yes.
Okay. And we're saying that
And
We're
patio is
saying- is that the-
undefined,
is
so
that
for all
the-
intents and purposes,
Help
it
me
is
out,
a
help me out.
garage.
Hang on, slow down. Help me out, I'm trying to understand the situation. So are we saying that lattice is the west wall of this enclosure?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we're saying that the lattice is fully enclosed and screening this vehicle.
It is enclosed and screens the vehicle from view from my neighbor's yard.
Okay. So I would say to the board, you need to make a determination on the definition of junk motor vehicle in this case. Are we going to uphold our original determination, or are we going to overturn based on this appeal and the new information?
So I would
Do you
also.
have any, I was going to ask.
I was going to ask, counsel.
So if this meets the junk motor vehicle definition, it doesn't matter whether it's a collector's vehicle, it doesn't matter storage, that's irrelevant. That's not a defense. This is under the nuisance code under 505-173E. And there's no dispute that it's 3 model years or older, and it's apparently inoperable. There's been no dispute about that. So those two are taken care of. The third one is extensively damaged, and it's Mr. Jagged's position that that doesn't talk about disassembly. I've not seen any case law or any kind of supporting interpretations for that argument. So, but he makes it. but the statute is clear. It says extensively damaged, including but not limited to any of the following: missing wheels, tires, engine, or transmission. So if it's missing something, whether it's been disassembled or not, that's the definition of extensively damaged, because it's missing it. So he can disassemble it, and it's still extensively damaged, because that's what the words in the statute say. If there's case law to the contrary, I'm not aware of it. It hasn't been presented. So that's the determination that you have before you. Do you believe that because he disassembles it, that it's not extensively damaged, or do you look at the plain language of the code and says because it's missing one of the things such as wheels, tires, engines, or transmission, that it's then therefore extensively damaged under the statute? It's a really simple determination.
Let me ask him additional questions, just for the benefit of the board. What are your long-term plans for this vehicle?
Long-term plans for this vehicle, most of the vehicle is being used to restore another vehicle, and what's left is being scrapped.
Okay, so there's no intent to restore this vehicle to working order?
No, I am using
It's
this
go-
vehicle for restoration of another vehicle.
Okay,
And that is why it's been moved to where it is, because it is easier access for me to remove some of the larger body parts.
so it's parts.
Most of it is, yes. The frame, suspension, engine, transmission, the drivetrain will be kept for other purposes.
Sure.
But overall, the main part of the vehicle, it was purchased for restoration purposes.
So there's no intent to restore this to,
No, actually, I'm trying to get rid of it as quickly as I can.
okay?
However, dealing with 81-year-old senile neighbors and having to take time off to deal with this kind of puts that on hold sometimes.
Trustee Seavey, you have questions, please? Comment?
Not yet, but are there any other testimonies for this case?
Nobody signed up?
Let me ask you this. If the board didn't rule strictly on this, what time frame would you need to remove this vehicle from the property?
I'm hoping to have it done before winter.
60 days, 90 days? I'm just, for purposes of this discussion, what's reasonable in your mind?
90 days would be reasonable. It may take me 120. It depends on weather and life in general. You know, hobbies don't always take front seat to your responsibilities.
No, but the responsibilities of a property owner are constant.
Yes, and I've done my responsibility, and it is in a area that meets the definition of garage. It is screened from view.
We've had to deal
I can
with
tell you
these
why this
collector
whole
cars
thing
before.
started to begin with is that my senile neighbor thought that tire tracks in his yard from his lawn care company were from me driving in his yard with it.
So again, I would just
Yeah.
let the board know that
Yes.
we're talking about one thing.
One
Is this,
thing.
is this extensively damaged or not? If it is, then it's a nuisance. And it's whether it's a collector's vehicle or the storage, that's irrelevant. If it's one of those three things, he can't have it there. It's a public nuisance under the statute. His argument is that I'm disassembling it, therefore it's not damaged because I'm going to eventually use it for parts and get rid of it anyway. And the question is, on the day that was there, was it extensively damaged? Was it apparently inoperable? Was it 3 years or older? And there's only one factor that's in dispute.
You know, earlier you were speaking about how we need to adhere to, you know, the rules and regulations that we have. The rules and regulations say that the conditions must be met for 30 days. The conditions had been met for a period of 5 days. So we honestly shouldn't even be standing here right now.
Are we sure we don't have anybody in the audience that wants to address this? I'm seeing head shakes and I'm seeing some body language. Are we sure there's nobody here that wants to address? Okay. Could you?
No?
I'm sorry, if I may. I have a question for council. Brian, is the 30 days that the gentleman is referencing, does that have to do with our zoning, or is that public nuisance?
I don't know what he's referencing. There's
Okay.
no 30-day
'cause-
period in the statute.
Yeah.
If you go to the Delhi Township webpage, go to the frequently asked questions.
This is, so to be clear, we are not here tonight discussing a zoning matter. This is a public nuisance matter under Ohio Revised
Right.
Code.
And-
We are going to take action as stipulated under Ohio Revised Code. A zoning violation.
And under
would have
Ohio
a-
Revised Code, it does not meet the definition of junk motor vehicle. It was also reported and acted on as a nuisance 25 days prematurely. Basically, I could have left that vehicle sitting in the yard in the first picture, just like that, for 29 days. And on the 30th day, it would have become a nuisance. Up until that point, it's not, according to your website, your publications.
No?
According to council, that's not true. Sir, you made reference to a couple years ago you've had this car. So how long have you had this car, and how long have you been disassembling it? Because obviously
I
that wasn't
just started
the first day.
disassembling it in April of this year.
Okay, so since April until now, this car has been in this condition.
No, it has not.
It's been in a condition of
It has been
disassembly.
in changing conditions.
Okay.
Okay, but
Okay.
you began disassembly in April.
I began partial disassembly in April. Most of the disassembly was the interior.
Okay, we do have public discussion or public comment. So if you could please come forward, if you'd give her the podium, please, and identify yourself and your address.
Yeah, I'm Paige Tedesco. My address is 4989 Troubadour. My father is the not 81-year-old, 79-year-old senile neighbor. He is not the one that made the initial call. I want that to be perfectly clear. He is not the one that made the initial call on this. He is not senile. I just want you to leave him alone, please. Just leave him alone. He has been harassing my dad since the zoning guy or whoever it was that showed up and gave him the reports. That is all he's done, is harassed my dad. I just want him to leave him alone, please. Please, it's been a nightmare for my dad. Okay? He has lived in that same house for 55 years, has never had one issue. The guys on the other side of him are wonderful people. Across the street, wonderful people. He has done nothing to this man. He didn't even make the initial call. He didn't even know it was happening until one of the guys showed up at his house and gave him a calendar and said, this is what's going to happen. It was not his lawn guy's tires on his yard. He has moved the cars in and out in between my dad's house and his house several times. That's where the tire marks came from. Since then, he has put stakes in the yard to distinguish my dad's yard from his yard. That's what he's done.
Okay.
So no, a lot of what he said is not true. Just please, just know that.
So put on record, it was not your father
Right.
Okay?
that made the thing.
And I don't live there. It's my dad's house. I'm over there 3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you, Ms. Tedesco. Appreciate it. Okay. Trustee Seaver, do you have
I'm
questions?
curious about the harassment accusation because I haven't spoken to Mike since June 15th.
It's irrelevant to this case right now, sir. We're talking about your car and the situation around your
She
car.
felt it was relevant to bring it up.
Well,
I'd like an explanation of how I've
She
been
wants you to
harassing
know
this
that it
man.
was not her father who made the thing, made the complaint.
That's who you allege made it. So who made the initial complaint?
I don't have that on record
25
here.
days early.
I don't have that on record. It's something we'll have to research. And I'm sorry, Mr. Roach
I've
isn't
been
here.
asking that question since June
Ultimately,
13th.
ultimately, it would be zoning staff that would be the complainant.
The other thing too is.
I can't tell you if there was I can't tell you the status of the complaint that came in for them to initiate that, but they make the determination. They are ultimately legal, the complainant.
And
Yes, counsel.
it does talk about the 30 days. I did find what he's talking about.
Sorry,
But it's
Brian,
been there, it's in the FAQ. He's right, on 30 days. But it's been there since April, so it's been in that condition for more than the 30 days anyway.
No, the vehicle has not been there since April. As I said, that vehicle was moved to the point that you see in the first picture on the 8th.
8th of June?
It was moved on the 8th of June. On the 13th of June, I was out of town and received a phone call from one of the Delhi police officers that responded, as well as John Schill. I spoke to them, told them I was out of town and that the vehicle was going to be moved when I returned from town, from being out of town. It was moved on the 15th, on Saturday, to a covered structure that meets the definition of garage.
Again, we're still unextensively damaged.
Right.
He's acknowledged it's been in that condition for more than 30 days.
It
So
has
that
been.
meets the,
That meets
At this
criteria.
point, yes, it has been in that condition for more than 30 days. On the date in question, On June 13th, it was not extensively damaged. It's disassembled.
And to be clear,
It is not being stored.
that 30 days is not a requirement in the state code.
In the state code. Thank you.
It may not be an Ohio state requirement, and I already looked into that, but Delhi, according to your webpage, does grant 30 days.
So, and you've had the 30 days because we haven't acted on it, correct?
And the vehicle has been moved from the original condition that it was reported.
I'm looking at these two pictures.
Okay.
And I'm saying that on June 13th, this would meet my criteria as a junk motor vehicle based on my interpretation of the Ohio Revised Code. I'm looking at the picture from today, it still meets that criteria. The location of it from the yard to under your patio or carport, if you so choose to
garage.
call it that, doesn't change the status of
It
it
does
being a junk
because
motor vehicle.
I was required to move the vehicle to a garage or get rid of it. It has been moved. It has been moved since the 15th of June.
Is the vehicle licensed?
No, ma'am. It's an unlicensed collector's vehicle.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm looking at the second picture, the carport. I don't know what the big gap is in your trellis or whatever you're calling that. That to me is not a totally enclosed garage myself. So if you're
What
trying to
you
make
can't
that a
see in
totally
that picture, do you see the downspout? That is another wall right there.
Well, I can see straight through over the top, and I see the top of your awning, and I see the opening on the right-hand side. I mean, I don't know how enclosed that really is. Okay. Trustee Davis, you're writing a lot of notes. You said
Yep.
you had something to say.
We all are.
I do. First of all, government in action, thanks for being here and listening to your thoughts, obviously very well thought out, and I can sense your frustration and anger and everything, and even with you, with what you're going through, thinking, this is not, you got the wrong dude. How about that? That being said, you just presented a lot, and I have to be honest with you, I haven't heard any of what you've just presented. I've heard council talk, and I've heard our administrator talk. I'm curious, have you done this with other cars through the years, or is this the only one you've ever done this with?
No, this is my first car that I've done. I've done several motorcycles.
Okay. But no one said anything about motorcycles or
No.
going through yards or leaving tracks or anything
No,
like
and
that?
actually I spoke to Mike on the Friday and the Saturday and the Sunday leading up to the day where I moved the vehicle through the yards and made sure that he was okay with it. Because the neighbors on his other side have recently had some work done in their yard and that it became a big thing. So I made sure to speak to him because I know his memory is failing.
Oh, please.
So I spoke to him 3 days in a row,
Right.
making sure that it was okay that I moved the vehicles up that side of the yard.
On his side?
Yes, the shared property line with,
Okay, so those were your tracks?
I'm sorry?
So those were your tracks? He gave
No,
you
the
permission?
tracks that he saw on, what would have been, the Tuesday and Wednesday that he began complaining about were about this far apart, the same width as a tractor, a lawnmower tractor,
Okay.
and they went up and down his yard all throughout.
I'm curious too, and I want to get a better definition of this. You keep saying that you did it 25 days too soon. If something's in violation, why would we wait 30 days? Wouldn't we, if we saw something in violation, we're going to serve notice?
Same question.
You might have 30 days to move it, but to say that you did it 25 days too soon, I'm not sure where that's coming from.
Your website,
That we won't come out and do something until 30 days that something's been in violation?
the township has adopted nuisance regulations which prohibit inoperative motor vehicles which are wrecked, disassembled, and/or unable to operate under their own power and have been in such condition for a period of 30 or more days.
But I don't know if that has to do with the day that you're actually cited for it. Does the 30 days then start ticking?
Right, it
at that-
doesn't have to be the date,
Yeah, it
interpreting
does,
the
yeah.
30 days from the citation.
Oh, we could be there forever. We wouldn't know what date you put
It was
put out
reported
there,
and
so-
registered as a nuisance violation within 14 days.
It does.
Right. Okay. A couple other questions, if you would. First of all, when I see that, obviously the picture June 13th, I'm not thrilled with. The fact that you got it in there, did you push it under there? So
No, it moves under its own power. It has an engine, a transmission, four-wheel, actually all-wheel drive, selectable four-wheel drive, and 4 wheels on it.
But yet that's not going to be that way much longer as you continue to disassemble, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I am using parts from that vehicle to restore another vehicle.
Okay.
Now, as far as what happens with what's left, I have not completely decided. It may become an off-road vehicle, a recreational vehicle. It may be sold for parts to someone else who may be able to use them.
Okay.
But
And-
where it stands right now, it is a collector's item that I use for leisure purposes.
But not licensed.
It is an
Streetworthy.
unlicensed collector's vehicle.
Okay, but you couldn't drive it on the street. There's no license, nothing.
I could, but I don't think he's going to be happy about it.
You've probably seen worse, haven't you? I bet. I have a question also on, you brought up two, and this isn't a personnel issue. I'm just curious, were these your words or were these Tony's words when you said, he said, quote, facts won't change his mind?
That is a direct quote from him.
That he
Said that his mind was made up. I'm not going to change his opinion.
Okay, so he didn't say the facts part. He just said that the decision's been made. You're not going to change the mind.
Yes, he did
Okay.
say
So facts do
it doesn't matter what facts you present to me. This was a phone call. It doesn't matter what facts you present to me. My mind has been made up. You're not going to change my opinion.
Very good. I appreciate that. And I also appreciate our administrator here trying to work with you, trying to get a basic time with 90 days. Well, it could be 90 to 120. It's not like we're not trying to bring this all together here somehow. But I have to, my opinion, where we are, for me, I mean, I'm not prepared to do anything with this tonight. You just presented a whole laundry list of things to me that I would want to look at before I could say anything. And I trust what you're saying because you're literally looking at it as we're going. And again, remember the Ohio Revised Code, which trumps us, if you would. So that's where I am. I don't want to hear any more. I don't need to
Well-
hear. I need to time to look at this. You even admitted,
we've dealt
you've even
with this
admitted that you've
A lot of
heard things.
information that I haven't heard before.
Right. So on that, like I said, we're not, to me, I'm not trying to blow you up. I love it. You laid it out, which we appreciate that. The personal things like that doesn't serve any purpose. We just want to get it resolved. We want to try and get things back to being civil and moving on with our lives. Life's too short. You know what I mean? So that's where I am. I would need to hear more unless you two.
Well, I have a couple things here. First off, I don't want to get involved in neighborly fights. That's
Neither
first
do
and
I.
foremost. That's always been our position, and I stick by it. Secondly, we have dealt with collectors' vehicles before in driveways, but they've always been covered, and they've also been given the olive branch of 90 days or 60 days to get the vehicle secured in a good place for a collector's car. If I had to look at the first picture, just like yourself, Trustee Davis, I would say, whoa, that's not good. Okay. Now, administrator offered you an olive branch saying, how long do you need to get this thing taken care of and put away? You know, no longer going to irritate a neighbor, no longer going to be an irritant to you. And you said maybe 120 days?
Yes, well, giving room for error and room for, like I said, life happens. So,
Okay.
so
Is
honestly,
there,
I don't like where it is right now either. I would prefer it to be in my garage where I have my tools right there rather than, okay, grab what I think I need,
And
come
hauling
do
them
it,
up there.
Where's my screwdriver? Yeah, you know,
Okay.
I want it moved. I know my girlfriend wants it moved more than I do, but I want the thing done and gone. You know,
Okay.
that's the only thing I want to be able to do is sit around, work on my motorcycles, work on my cars, build my engines, do that.
is it possible that I could have a copy of all of your study on this? Because you gave me a lot of
I was going to
information.
request that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would really like to have a chance to go back over and check it myself. To your point, Mike, about needing additional time.
Yeah.
Oh, great, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Make copies.
Kylie, you'll copy that?
I will copy that and distribute that to the board. Yes, sir.
So my question is, if you want it in your garage, why isn't it in your garage?
I have other motorcycles and other projects in the garage right now.
Okay.
Would those be better served under your carport and this truck in your driveway or garage?
That is the goal.
One problem for another.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I'm just saying. What would
My
those motorcycles look
My
like?
motorcycles typically have always been stored in that area. Right now, I have one that I am doing work to, and that is taking up, the main part of my garage.
Okay.
My bikes are more important to me than that is right now. So that has been put where it is, like I said, temporary parking needs.
So how long would it take to fix your motorcycle?
The motorcycle could be done this weekend.
So if you got that fixed this weekend, you put them under here, this can go to your garage.
Yep, play a little bit of vehicle shuffle.
We delay any further action on this 30 days, so you can swap them around?
Well, there is still more work I'd like to do to it before I get it into the garage. Like I said, removing large body panels, it's kind of hard in the tight garages.
Better in the open air. Yeah.
Exactly.
But you can, to be fair, you can see how that would be a disturbance to the neighborhood, possibly create a nuisance.
If any of them are sitting in their backyards watching me, yeah,
Okay.
And they do. They do.
They are.
Chris, I mean, you're being given, as Trustee Seavey said, a giant olive branch meeting you, giving you 90 days. We've done it for others. I think we'd be willing to do it here. Again, we're trying to work with you, but
yes, the goal has been October. The end of October was the date that I had set to get this all done, everything that I needed to get done out there done, and get it moved into the garage so that I can work on it through the winter.
One of the options that the board has is you could determine the appeal, but then stay any enforcement for a certain amount of time.
Okay.
That's one option. Another option is you could continue it for decision at some time too. That's up to you. I've heard a couple options. So there are a couple options depending on what the board wants to do.
yeah, and as I said, I can't rule on anything until I
No,
So
take that
there's
apart a
too
little
much,
bit.
there's too much in this
So-
one.
Yeah.
You're going to have to read this.
I have two recommendations for today, okay? If we're looking to have a resolution, or, some type of resolution that we can all agree to tonight, so you don't have to come back, we could settle on a stay of enforcement that gives you time to do what you need to put this in a reasonable place in the garage, okay? Or we can continue this, that way staff can fully review, your argument here and give you a fair response, okay? We would reconvene at the next meeting, so you'd have to come back again. So can we,
Do you need
those would be my two
okay,
recommendations.
but do you need the entire board to be here for that?
No, I would need, it would be a majority vote.
Okay,
It's not
okay.
so,
Because I didn't want to bring him back and not have the whole board here.
right, no, that's fair, I
Yeah.
understand. So, and that's something you need to consider. So, this is to the board, but you're part of the conversation. Can we resolve this by staying enforcement and giving the gentleman enough time to bring this into, compliance or move it into a better state? Or do we reconvene at the next meeting?
Well, to that point, I would ask you, are you willing to accept our offer of saying, we'll give you a stay of 90 days to get this situation taken care of?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Michael, are
then
you
I-
okay with that?
What does that date come up to on the calendar?
But I still want to read this because you brought up some excellent points, and I want to have a chance to go over it.
It'd be like November,
Working on it.
yep.
Is your contact information on these sheets?
Is that,
No, it's not.
Got copies here we can put on it.
It'll be in the minutes, too.
Okay.
Friday, November 8th. Let's go ahead and make that the following Monday
Okay.
for follow-up and inspection.
Yeah,
So a little more than
the-
90? Is that
That's
right?
November
11th,
11th?
Yep, November 11th.
Veterans Day.
Is our
that fair?
board agree to that?
Veterans Day.
This thing- You have to make a motion, I know, but I,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
If you're going to agree.
Are you guys going to be in office that day?
That's a good question.
Do what, please?
I don't know if they're in the
Trying to think
office.
if we're here on Veterans Day. Yeah.
We can do it on the 8th. The 8th is fine.
If not,
We're not
there-
normally here.
November 8th it is.
November 8th.
All right.
Okay.
Need a motion.
We need a
Okay with that.
motion. Okay. Any more discussion?
Yep.
At
So
this time?
this is a motion to stay enforcement until November 8th, 2024,
Okay.
correct?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Luby, we need to make a motion to close the public hearing, please.
Motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, closing, motion, the closing of the public hearing, and we now have another motion, please.
Correct.
Motion or
So we have a motion to stay enforcement until November 8th, 2024.
on property at 755 Gilcrest Lane. So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Do we have to vote on that? We'll get to you, sir, when it comes to public comments.
You're good.
We've got you, Mr. Gages. Thank you. Yep, we have, the rest of the meeting did run. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for allowing us to hear what you had to say. Hopefully this will work out for you, and we'll go from there, and we'll take all your comments into consideration.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Chris, you know, November 8th, it won't be us coming after you. You know who it'll be. Your girlfriend. Enough's enough. Get rid of it. All right.
All righty. Okay, that's closed. We've made a motion. Let's move on to the fire department, please.
We have Resolution 2024-126, authorizing a master software and services agreement between the Delhi Township Fire Department and the Image Trend LLC for software solutions and technical support, declaring an emergency and dispense with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution, Chief? Or Assistant Chief, excuse me. Assistant
You're
Chief
fine.
Helms.
Good evening. So the reason we're asking for this agreement is our current software was bought by a larger company about 3 years ago, and they are phasing out the current stuff that we use for all our reporting and stuff. So this new software, and what we use this for, is basically all our fire reports that go to the state and to the national reporting system, all our occupancies, our fire inspections, our training records, our equipment inventory, our maintenance records, our reporting on how we do that. Our daily truck checks and our personnel files are all kept in this software and that we use. So we know we have to replace this, so we're getting ahead of it now because there's a lot of data transfer that has to happen between now and the first of the year. And so we're ready to go. Actually, before January 1, we'll test it before and make sure everything is going ahead of schedule and everything. But then January 1 will be fully on this system when the old system is phased out.
Okay.
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
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 Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes. Do we have an update on the department, please?
Sure, I got a couple things. I think Trustee Seavey alluded that we got school in session. We've been preparing for that. Myself and the chief did a tabletop exercise over at Mount St. Joe with their administrators, kind of preparing for any sort of disaster and how we collaborate when things happen. We've been out in all the schools, both Oak Hills, the parochial, and Mount St. Joe, doing our fire inspections, making sure that, there's no last-minute issues. We do fire inspections twice a year in our schools, so we're out there early for that. Oak Hills hired, I believe, 30 new teachers and staff. And one of the things we do is we go out there and we teach them stop the bleed.
Yes.
So we just got that done, along with, Officer Wedley teaches the active shooter, training and stuff like that. So we got all those new teachers oriented with that. So that's been a big part of our preparation for getting ready for school. Some notable emergency calls. So last Wednesday, early Wednesday morning, we had a structure fire on Covedale. Our crews arrived. The fire was through the roof already. It was a vacant house. It was under renovation. There was nobody living there. We got a pretty good stop on it. And we're not sure exactly what the cause is right now. So it is accidental, no incendiary activity or anything like that. So that happened there. On Friday, we actually had a fire alarm at one of our nursing homes, and it ended up being that one of the residents was smoking in their room with oxygen on. and the cannula caught on fire, and then she threw it into the garbage can and caught the garbage can on fire. So we did have that. So just, I know there's people out there who smoke and use oxygen and stuff, and, you know, they might think it doesn't happen, but, you know, it just takes that one instance right there when it's that perfect condition, and it'll cause a fire there. And then actually this Sunday, we had another fire that was out when we got there, but there were some people who were staining, and they were using stain and with the rags. And if anybody doesn't know, and just for your information, if you do any sort of staining or anything, it has linseed oil in it. And linseed oil, when the rags get, you know, crumpled together and everything, they can spontaneously combust, and it really does happen. So if you're doing any sort of that DIY home improvements or anything like that, put them in a metal can, put them outside to dry, or lay them out in the yard so all those vapors go away. But luckily, there wasn't really any damage on that, just a lot of smoke when they woke up in the morning. So that's pretty much what's been going on at the firehouse.
There you go. Thank you.
One point, I did mean to say thank you to you for the Stop the Bleed training. And this is something that happens every year with all the new teachers. But if you're ever in a classroom in the Oak Hills Local School District, you'll see a red canvas bag hanging there. And we hope they never come off the wall with that bag. But that bag is there for the teachers if there's ever an emergency that we really don't want to have. That bag is there to help save lives. And thank you guys for training those teachers on what to do if that tragedy happens. That is tremendous. Thank you.
Yep, not a problem.
They're also in all the parochial schools too, correct?
Yes.
You've trained all the parochial
Yes,
schools,
yeah,
so
yep,
it's
yep,
not
yep.
just
So,
Oak Hills. They
yeah,
all have
so we've done that.
Rest
And
assured,
actually,
neighbors, they all have them.
yeah, so actually about every 2 years, 3 years, we go through and we teach all the teachers, and we do a refresher with them as well. And, you know, this year when they do their in-service getting ready for school, it's other topics and stuff. So we do go back and we do refreshers, you know, with all our teachers.
Perfect. Sad to say that we need those, but
Yeah, and you know, one of the points that we try to make as well is it's just not for that tragedy that we think is going to happen. You know, you have home accidents. We've had, you know, since we've put tourniquets on the medic units, we've used them more for auto accidents than anything. We've actually had a couple chainsaw accidents over the years that we've used them on. So it's just not that, you know, that horrible incident that we think is going to happen or that we're preparing for. It can also be used at home in a way.
good. That's a visual, that chainsaw.
I know.
Can't get that out of my head. Okay, thank you for everything you do. Thank you. Okay, Parks and Recreation. We have a resignation.
We have a motion to accept the voluntary resignation of event custodian Timothy B. Yeager, effective August 3rd, 2024.
So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you for your help, Mr. Yeager.
A motion to approve the hiring of Pamela T. McCamus as event custodian in the Parks and Recreation Department at a rate of $15 per hour, effective August 14th, 2024.
So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion carries. Welcome, Pamela. Okay, Mr. Soupy, we have a department update?
Just a few. I'd like to comment on the hiring. We do have Pam. She has been with us as a seasonal, and we're kind of fortunate that she was able to step up and take on some custodial duties as well. So it works out wonderful for us. And just a couple updates. We do have a spending authority. We're getting to the point where our dog park project is getting to the point where we're closing up underground stuff. I have a little bit more to do with that for water lines, and we're going to start putting out the fence project for that. So we do have an authority for that tonight. I will get the supplies for water and stuff like that too. And we did have a request recently for some returning for some water fountains in the park. We did get rid of these during COVID times, and you know, everybody got in their kind of routine of bringing their own waters and still not sharing like that, so the safety issues. So we're going to look into returning a few more secure items there in the park itself. So we do sell them also in the vending machines, you know, the water, so it isn't like they're not there either. So we did get the request, and we'll help out with that. And just a little update, which will come up later, is the next always a good tone, the concert in the park. Next Wednesday is the menus, 7 p.m.
They're always a good time.
Always a good time.
Always a good time.
Just
All
any other
right.
questions, let me know.
Any questions, trustees? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Police Department, We have a motion.
We have a motion to adjust the salary rate of community advocate Kaylee N. Vickers to $63,008 per year effective August 7th, 2024.
So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Very good. Okay. Chief, update or want to tell us what's going on? And if you would, try to explain when you should stop and not stop for a school bus, since we're on this new school thing. We do it every year. People just don't understand, so.
You're stealing all my thunder.
Okay, well, there we go.
So first, I wanted to mention something about the car break-ins. We continue to see expensive personal belongings out in the open in cars. Could be computers, could be purses, could be guns. I mean, people are leaving things in plain view and people are stealing them. So as a public service announcement, I would encourage everybody not to do that. Secondly, as far as to expand on what Trustee Steve was mentioning before about school safety, school bus laws, obviously, I don't know if you all saw the post I put out on social media just to kind of cover a few things, but school buses are a tricky thing and most people don't know what the law is. If you're going the same direction as a school bus, you always have to stop. If you're going the opposite direction on a roadway with less than 4 lanes, you have to stop. If it's a divided highway, meaning a barrier, or there's a grass median, the cars in the opposite direction do not have to stop. But always the same direction you have to stop. So hopefully that helps you, clears that up a little bit. But not just school buses, school zone speed limits. We talk about watching kids in crosswalks. We talk about, distracted driving, obviously people on their cell phones that aren't paying attention. And the most important thing is obviously encourage your kids to walk with other kids and take safe routes and more importantly than anything, if you see something strange, it probably is, so we need a call. So please call us. It's never a burden. It's never a problem. We want you to call because we'd rather follow up on something that's not wrong and find out they're supposed to be there versus they just don't call. So anytime, call us. We have open house. Hopefully that answers your question, Trustee Sturts. I don't know if it does
You
or
answered
not.
it, yeah.
Open house on August 24th. So if from 11 to 3, we'd love to see you there. Come out and have a conversation, check out equipment. And between 11 and 12, it's for special needs children or even adults. We're going to do some activities geared towards them. So we'd love to see everybody come out. And if anybody has any questions about school bus laws, or just call the station at 513-922-0060. We'll be glad to help.
All right.
Chief, I do have a question about the school zones. Do you have to slow down when kids are not out on recess?
Kids are supposed to be coming, going, and to and from school or be visible on the property. And most people have that misconception that there has to be flashing lights to enforce the speed limit, the school zone. That's not the case. It's just the flashing lights are a warning device only. So if you see kids, you got to go 20.
And if the kids are not out, you're okay doing normal speed?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Clear as mud.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions for the chief?
Nope.
All right.
But I do want to say, because that night or the next day when that happened with those car break-ins, which, by the way, are happening everywhere in the
Thank you.
city
See
and
it?
the township, you name it, it's happening. So to do a little preventative maintenance, make sure you don't keep anything valuable in your car. And I know some like to say, well, you know what, I just keep it unlocked because I'd rather have them just go grab whatever than break my windows, whatever. Hopefully Delhi would never be in that situation. But there was a sergeant with, I think I told you, but Cincinnati Police who said the same thing. Just do your best and don't let valuables out in plain sight. And in this day and age where people have handguns and they're allowed to, you leave them in your car and now they break in your car and now they have your gun. And then I know you've brought that up before, but some common sense there. Not that people didn't exercise common sense here, break-ins happen, but thanks for pointing that out. And like I said, when you got those things, take them inside with you, please.
And just a little follow-up on that. We have obviously some good technology. We have drones. If we get a complaint about vehicle tamperings in the area, we get the drone up in the air, and it's a very helpful tool. And obviously, DCPA, Delhi Citizens Police Association, to give them a plug on that. So, and obviously, we're just blessed with very good equipment. So I thank you for that.
Very good.
Would there be anything, just a quick question, I'm sorry not to belabor this, would there have been anything that evening? Obviously, you could probably tell it would be between the hours of 12 and whatever, 5 a.m. or something. Do we use our flock cameras to try and see if anything's pulling out of here, or?
We do, but unfortunately, sometimes with not knowing what type of car they left in, we'll see cars on the flock cameras, but it's one of those things where it's a crapshoot, but, you know, we can see when that car that was left here when it came in, but as far as, you know, not knowing what left the township, it's kind of it's hard to do that, as
Yeah.
far as.
And thank you for increasing the patrols up here, too. That's good. We got to protect our investments.
Absolutely. Any more questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. We'll move on to Public Works. Mr. Rippinger, you don't have anything on the agenda, but how about an update?
Just a little update. Thank you, trustees. Well, I guess they don't call it Hillside Avenue for nothing. So this is the second road closure next week, August 19th. It's a Hamilton County road. This has been in the works for probably close to 5 years. Small section. It is close to the other road closure from the city of Cincinnati on Anderson Ferry. We have had a few phone calls on this, and we're able to, well, I got good contacts for both projects. So any questions that come in, we're able to answer them pretty quick. Other than that, we've been proactive on trying to keep the crosswalks and all of our brush cleared out for school starting. We try to do that every year to keep the kids safe and stuff. So that's about all I got. Any questions?
No, thank you.
I have one statement, if I might, Madam Chair. I want to thank the city of Cincinnati for really thinking through this and knocking off our two main entrances into the township at the same time.
At the same time.
Anderson Ferry and Fairbanks and Delhi. Great thinking. They really care, don't they?
Yeah, we've definitely gotten a couple calls, and I think some of it went on Facebook a little bit.
Did they? Oh, I haven't seen that one.
A lot of it.
Yeah, now that one would be a good cause on Facebook. My goodness. I mean, I can't think of anything else except what were you thinking?
Yeah.
You took
Or
out
not.
our two main
Or not
entrances.
thinking.
Huh?
Or not thinking.
They left us Bender. Or should I not say that?
Yeah, no, you can say it. They're spending their money. That's right.
Yeah, I know the Hillside project's been in the works for years, but Anderson Ferry, I didn't know nothing about that. It just came about. The signs came up, and we started getting calls, so I didn't know nothing about that.
Okay,
Oh, well.
All right,
thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, we now have administration. We have a resolution.
We have Resolution 2024-127, authorizing the Township Administrator to spend greater than $10,000 on behalf of the Township, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on the resolution? Mr. Miller?
Yes, ma'am. So this is for two items. First one is vendor unknown. So this is for a proposed dog park out at Delhi Park. Randy is being very diligent, getting multiple quotes. The best quote we have right now is right at $50,000. So we're setting this limit at not to exceed $50,000, but we're hoping to find a better offer. So, but we want to be able to move forward in a timely fashion as well. The next one is for Delhi Town Square. This is a request not to exceed $50,000 for, this would be multiple vendors. This is essentially to gear up for event activities in the Delhi Event Center. This includes a variety of purchases, including chairs and other furniture, table linens, dance floor for this room, possible cooler, and mobile bar stands, just to name some of the larger ticket items. But that would be operational startup costs.
No Christmas tree?
Not for this. So I don't have that tonight. I apologize.
Okay.
It's coming.
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Libby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes. So, Administrator's report, I'm sure you have lots to tell us, right?
I do indeed, yeah. First thing, there will be another resolution on the agenda after community development. For purposes of keeping all of the community development resolution numbers the same, we tacked it on at the end. This is an amendment to a prior resolution authorizing the purchase of land on Delhi Pike. There was simply a typo that needs to be corrected, so we have that coming. But in addition to that, talk about some happenings. The Lawn Bar seems to be doing well and continues to grow an audience. We are open Friday and Saturday 4 to 9, and we're continually improving operations out there. So we have new items coming. Now there'll be snacks out there. So we keep expanding the menu and kind of a responsible way, so to speak. Speaking of responsible, there will be a non-alcoholic option coming soon. So, in addition to the soft drinks.
Wine?
We're working on wine as well, yes.
Spritzers.
Yep, we have a supplier set up, so it's coming.
Great.
Yep. Today is Oak Hill's first day of the new school year, although Wednesdays will be teacher only here at the Oak Hills Early Learning Center. So tomorrow is when we will get our first 4- and 5-year-old occupants of our building. So not sure if the first day is if they split it up into half classes, but we will have close to 200 kids a day coming through here once they're at full operations. So very excited to see that. Great to have our partners at Oak Hills be able to fully utilize this space. So our insurance renewal is currently underway. This is our healthcare insurance. Melanie and I have been working with our new insurance broker, Marsh McLaren agency, and this is, so I will say across the industry, we're looking at between 10 and 30% increases in healthcare insurance. I think we're managing that pretty well, and I expect a single-digit increase this time around, hopefully. We still have to update those numbers, so they're not finalized. We will have a self-insurance presentation at our next meeting on August 28th, and we will need a special meeting the following week in order to adopt the
Because that needs
this
3
new
trustees.
renewal.
What's that date?
That's a good question. We'll have to figure that out. So the presentation will be 8/28 at the next meeting. That's just a presentation, but we do need to figure out a time for a special meeting to approve. So I'll see if that requires all 3 or if that can just be a majority vote. So we'll take a look at that. Okay, and finally, I heard one of you were asking about cameras, so I'll touch on that. So Chris and I, thank you, Chris, for evaluating the site. It should be public knowledge now that this facility does have security cameras on site surrounding the building, and then other select spaces, on the grounds. So we are interested in expanding those cameras, and we're evaluating what facilities we have and where to place those. I think it can be done in-house, just like our current camera system is. And so we do plan on moving forward with that in the fall, and I'll have a spending authority for you at an upcoming meeting soon.
Okay.
Is there any other questions on the cameras?
I have one. If we're talking about that lease agreement or the agreement that we have with them, I think of what I can tell is a valid point that's talked about the safety of the apartment building and them providing that. Why is it on us that we should put those cameras up when it's...
So to be clear, the township has an agreement with PLK for a ground lease. We provided them 5 buildable pads for a term of 30 years, and they're gonna make biannual payments on those. The parking lots are public parking lots owned by Delhi Township. We are responsible for the maintenance of those, the oversight of those parking lots. I'm not privy to any private contract that PLK has with their tenants, and what responsibility the PLK has to their tenants is really outside of our purview, just like it would be at any other rental property. But all 541 parking spaces at Delhi Town Square, do fall within our jurisdiction. That is township managed land.
So maybe this incident could be kind of catalyst for maybe getting with them, and maybe they put cameras on their building. We'll put cameras in the lot. That way everything stays secure instead of us being the one putting everything into it. How about them stepping up too, and we'll meet halfway?
Yes, sir. And
You
we
know,
will
we'll
have
cover
that
that.
conversation. There's also common area, or not common area, well, I guess it is a common area. It's breezeways through the building, that, we wouldn't have the ability to cover, but there's still easy pedestrian, passage through there. So I would hope that they would up their surveillance as well.
Yeah, I think that is crucial, especially in those breezeways. And since Chris is already working on things and you guys are doing the legwork, get with them and let's all work together here. So we're doing one time, putting it all out there and secure the property the rest of the way.
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
That's all I have for now, but like I said, there will be that additional
Yep.
resolution.
Okay. We're going to roll into economic development, which is also Mr. Miller.
That was part of this.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah.
You just rolled right into it.
I just
You
took care of it all.
kept
We're
on
done with
going.
economic-
All right, well, thank you.
Community development.
Community development, all right. We have a public hearing nuisance appeal. Is this,
Which we took care of.
we took care of that, so that's already done.
That's off.
So we have the resolution
So we have Resolution 2024-128,
stuff.
declaring nuisance for excessive vegetation at 5358 Orange Lawn Drive, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of the resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution? Mr. Miller?
Board, these pictures are going to speak for themselves. This is very clearly a high vegetation issue. This certainly falls within the public nuisance criteria, and it's time to move forward. So,
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Libby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-129, declaring nuisance for accumulated debris at 5358 Orange Lawn Drive, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this
Any
resolution.
discussion on this resolution, Mr. Miller? It's the same house.
it is the same house, so yes, but because these are, so one is accumulated debris, one is high vegetation, this is a separate nuisance.
Okay.
Okay. I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Libby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-130, declaring nuisance for accumulated debris at 580 Orchard View Place, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution, Mr. Miller? I think it's self-explanatory.
These are all self-explanatory. Yes, ma'am.
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Libby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-131, declaring nuisance for excessive vegetation at 491 Wilkie Drive, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on the resolution?
High vegetation.
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
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 Mr. Libby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-132, declaring nuisance for accumulated debris at 416 Greenwell Avenue, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of the resolution.
Any discussion on the resolution? Debris.
More accumulated debris. Get it
I
out to
move
the
to
curb.
dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
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 Mr. Libby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-133, declaring nuisance for excessive vegetation at 5321 Plum Ridge Drive, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution? Nope.
No.
High veg.
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Libby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-134, declaring nuisance for excessive vegetation at 4900 Delhi Pike, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution?
You know, I saw Carol, the nurse practitioner who runs this, was actually out there trying to cut some of the stuff back. This is just within the last 48 hours. Is this do we know when this picture was taken, or?
This current picture is dated July 8th. However, all of these were inspected, I believe, this morning.
Okay.
So there may still be some high vegetation out there. If she's working on it, we'll certainly delay any enforcement action, so as we always do. And I will say that this morning we were able to take 2 properties off of this list, so we are trying very hard to, keep our nuisance list as short as possible.
And they're
The-
responding.
The litter in that photo is particularly attractive also. Okay, I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
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 Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis. Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-135, declaring nuisance for accumulated debris at 4705 Mayhew Avenue, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution?
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
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 Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-136, declaring nuisance for excessive vegetation at 4705 Mayhew Avenue, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this
I
resolution.
second the adoption of the resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution? Same address.
Yep, just
Two
the
different,
backyard.
two different, yep.
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
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 Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-137, declaring nuisance for accumulated debris at 439 Greenwell Avenue, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of the resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution?
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
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 Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-138, declaring nuisance for accumulated debris at 430 Foley Road, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
Are those numerics accurate? 430 fully? Is there such a thing?
Yes, sir.
I think this may be part of the paper street that we always have problems with, the illegal dumping. So
Like
it
Rosemont
has a
Sibling?
full, it's a parcel with Foley address, but doesn't it have a different
Yep,
physical road crosses it? Yeah.
Tink you.
just an easy place to dump.
So that's truly just dumping because they've already got it in garbage bags, but dumped the garbage bags out.
Yep, just throwing it over the side. I think there's a guardrail right there.
Yep.
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis. Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-139, declaring nuisance for accumulated debris at 4207 Delhi Pike, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of the resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution?
No, ma'am.
That's not as bad as some of them.
Uh-huh.
Not as bad, no.
Not as bad. Okay. I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis. Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-140, declaring nuisance for accumulated debris at 694 Carnac Court, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution?
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
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 Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-141, declaring nuisance for excessive vegetation at 465 Burhan Drive, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution?
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I will I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Libby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-142, declaring nuisance for excessive vegetation at 474 Burhan Drive, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on the resolution?
Just a general statement, you know, we're looking at pictures from over a month ago. So if these haven't been brought into compliance, we have a month's worth of growth on top of all of these pictures. So, even pictures that I started to look at and I'd be like, well, that's not too bad. If it hasn't been cut yet, this
Right.
is, you know, it's gonna turn into a hayfield.
Right, and they went out and checked it this morning, so,
They're all verified as of this morning.
as of this morning.
Which is why the neighbors flip upside down and other people like
Yeah.
That's
get
exactly
off the
right.
lawn and these others step up to try and do it. But again, be cautious, but this is why I can't even imagine. Yeah.
Yep.
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
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 Mr. Libby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis. Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2024-143, certifying violation abatement expenses at 3912 Delhi Pike, 5059 Kincardine Drive, 5421 Cleander Drive, and 3935 Delhi Pike to the county auditor for assessment, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on the resolution?
I move to dispense.
Wait a minute.
Do you have
I
one?
was just gonna say, you know, this is our process, you know, we are spending.
This is the
public-
abatement.
We are spending public dollars to abate these properties. We forward this to the auditor's office so that it can be placed on the tax duplicate, and we can recoup our money.
Okay.
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
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 Mr. Libby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes. Any department update for this one, Mr.?
No,
Miller?
ma'am, not at this
Okay.
time. Thank you.
All right, so we now come to that additional administrative business, and we do have that resolution.
We have Resolution 2024-144, amending Resolution 2024-110, authorizing acceptance of contract to purchase real property identified as Hamilton County Auditor numbers 540-0010-0248-00, 024900, and 025000, and 025100, and 025200, and 025300 on Delhi Pike, authorizing the township administrator to execute and deliver the necessary documents, declaring an emergency, and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on the resolution?
Two items. So this resolution amends the previous resolution in the first section, updating the correct parcel address information. And there's also a small increase in the total expenditure to accommodate closing costs.
Okay. All right. I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
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 Mr. Libby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, resolution passes. Thank you for your patience sitting through those. All right, now we have come to the time where we have public comment, and I do have signed in Mr. Rich Gages, 5797. Is that your address, sir? 93, sorry. Juvine Way. Okay, if you'd like to come up to the podium and address us. You will have 5 minutes at the most.
It's only 3, I feel gifted.
That's
Thank you
okay.
very
I'm
much.
just saying, at 5, we'll be cutting you off. Let's go.
Sorry.
That's okay.
First, I'd like to apologize for clapping out loud when it wasn't time for clap out loud. I later did the silent clap, as I understand it. At least one of you were looking at me, and I didn't get the same dirty look, so I'll try and do that in the future to articulate without interrupting. The car problem, these break-ins, I'm not encouraging anyone. I don't know what the legalities are. But if you ever seen the videos where people go up and they steal deliveries from people's porches, they do the glitter bomb thing. And basically the people steals it, they go home and open it, there's a camera inside, and it explodes, and like all this stuff goes over them. So it's kind of just a glitter cars. And then I'd like to say, that I was one of those bad people that let his grass grow too long. My lawnmower broke down, and early in the year when it's raining like crazy, the grass grows like crazy. And like a lawnmower these days, given inflation caused by government, lawnmower, I got mine for $250 used. I think it's an $800 lawnmower. So it takes me more than a week, by the time I make. And I had neighbors that lent me their lawnmower on both sides. So one, I want to thank my neighbors, they're great neighbors, for not reporting me to the government. And number two, for lending me their lawnmower. I used one guy's lawnmower one time, the other time. So, I think that's a good way to work it out. So I had an incident recently where a little while back, I hadn't planned on talking tonight, so these aren't prepared comments. These are from the gut, and I intend everything to be from my understanding to the best of my knowledge. And, a ways back, I was denied a public records request, and I was told that you proved to me that it's in the law that I have to take this request, and I'll fulfill it for you. I said, it's not only in the law, it's also in your policy. And this was over a phone call. And it escalated to where, we were both doing things we probably shouldn't have done. I told him I was going to come up and write FU in person on a piece of paper and show it to him. At some point, I felt like he lied to frame me for a crime I didn't commit. And ultimately, I'd made the recommendation to pass, and I'll just make it here again real quick. I think all calls coming into the township should be recorded. I've had several incidences just myself where I'm saying one thing, somebody else is saying something else. And hey, a recorded phone call would be the evidence we need, just like cameras. And I think Jeff might tell you, or some police chiefs will tell you, the camera has saved and proven their side of the story just as much or more times than it proves the citizen that's having a disagreement with them. So I just, I think recorded lines would solve a lot of things. But ultimately, I had an incident where I was in between these two buildings. Y'all are doing kind of construction inside. I don't think you're going to lease it out, but I don't think you determined who you're leasing it to. And I went by, I tried to open the door because I wanted to see what was inside. Didn't open. So I looked inside, and there were a couple people in the distance, and they came over and opened the door and said, "Can I help you?" They weren't I don't think they were Delhi employees. They were like contractors. And I said, I was just looking in to see what was in here. I was just curious. Looks like you're doing construction. They said, yeah. I said, you know what? And we had a cordial conversation. I looked in this window tonight before I came in. I don't know if any of you noticed. Maybe it's a little bit weird, but I looked in. And I nobody said anything to me. But I did a similar thing to both those incidences where I went to this administration building and I looked in a window. And I've verified since police, I was 100% legal, did absolutely nothing wrong. And I encountered an employee there who I felt treated me rudely. I thought he was aggressive. I thought he was inappropriate. I thought he did things to the point of where I should have been given an apology. I asked him the same question 4 times as he barked orders at me. My question was, can I be here? Because he was giving me the impression that I couldn't be in the spot that I was legally allowed to be in. And so I asked the question 4 times. I was very professional. When I first walked up to the window, I noticed, and I didn't walk up to people, I walked up to a window. I noticed after I did that, people were walking up to the window on the other side. So I started waving, nobody waved back. The first window, they shut the blind on. And I thought, that's a good thing. If you want privacy, you create privacy, even in government. So I walked toward the door where you go in. I stopped at the next window. I walked to the next window, looked in, and there's a guy there. He came to me. I didn't approach him. He started a conversation with me. I didn't start a conversation with him. He was rude and so on and so forth. And after that happened, on the 4th question, when I said, can I be here for the 4th time, I admit I was a little curt. I said to him, I asked you the same question 4 times. You still haven't answered, and you're being aggressive with me. And so, after that, roughly an hour later, I called him up on his phone, on his work phone, talking about the olive branch. And I reached out with an olive branch, and I said, hey, I understand I was up there, and this is a recorded line, so I'm paraphrasing based on memory from a week ago or so. I said, I wanted to reach out with an olive branch. I felt I was a little curt after I asked you the same question 4 times. And I was a little curt with you, and for that, I do apologize. and I insinuated that he kind of owed me an apology as well. That's the way I felt, and it's the way I feel today. And, it got escalated to, so I said, here's my phone number, here's my name, can you give me a call back, and let's just put the water under the bridge. I didn't get a call back. I think the weekend hit. I think it was Monday, and I called back again, left another message. I think it was Tuesday, and I called back again, left another message. And at this point, I'm saying, hey, I don't understand why you're not calling me back. I would have expected a call back by now. And I'm doing it in a professional way, similar tone to what I'm doing now. I'd expect a call back by now. Can you give me a call back? And then I called back in. I asked for his supervisor, who I believe is Tony, the other guy was saying should be fired. And I said, Tony, your employee, I thought he's rude to me. I've requested a call back. It's been like 5 days, going on a week. Can you see what's up and give me a call back? I didn't hear back from him. Now, one of the times I transferred in, I asked to talk to this guy. They transferred me to Skylar. Skylar calls me back and leaves me a voicemail saying, this is Skylar, I'm calling you back. So I call him up and I say, I didn't even call you. I didn't leave you a message. I don't know what happened. I was accidentally transferred to you earlier. So there's a lot of miscommunication going on. And so I ended up having a conversation with Skylar a little bit later, sitting outside the swimming pool, getting ready to go in a hot car. And anyway, let me just take a step back. I apologize. So after when I was standing in the window, Skylar came out smiling, professional. Hey, Rich, how you doing? Hey, Skylar, how are you doing? We had a conversation. It's a good conversation. He said some things that I didn't appreciate, like the First Amendment isn't a priority in Delhi Township when I was making a complaint related to the First Amendment, which I'd be glad to talk about more at a different future point, but we have some problems with the First Amendment where I'm told if I exercise my First Amendment right, in essence, I'm going to probably get ticketed. That's what I was told, in essence. And so we have some First Amendment issues in this township, I believe. And I think at some point I insinuated that folks in government, including myself, because I worked not in this conversation, but in general, folks in government, that it's a predator business, because that's the way I feel. And we were having a good, honest communication, so I articulated that. So anyway, going back to where he calls me, and we ended that on a positive note. We both consciously ended on a positive note. I left thinking Skylar's on my side, he's on my team. And then we have a conversation later on, and he says, I told those guys not to give you a call. I told those guys that if he calls you, contacts you, to just forward it to me. So it started making sense why I was getting delayed and why I got, transferred to Skylar when I was asking for someone else. But he communicates, at some point I asked him, I told him that, I didn't feel that the employee treated me right. And I said, did you talk to him about the incident? And he said, no. I said, did you talk to anyone who witnessed the incident to see what they said about it? And he said, no. And I said, well, since I'm going through you to communicate with him, one, I'd like to know, is he accepting my apology or is he rejecting it? And number two, is he offering an apology to me or is he not? And Skylar said, I'm not going to require an apology. As my impression, he's not even going to request one of the individual. He's not going to do any kind of research or what do you call it, investigation into the matter. And he doesn't even have the facts. Talk about, the guy, did he say he didn't, he wasn't going to listen to the facts. He don't even want to hear the facts, more or less. And so, that was disheartening to me. So ultimately, I think Skylar went to the chief and said, you have a good relationship with Rich. Because me and the chief, we're like friends, right? We're like friends. And so chief calls me up last night and says, can you come in tomorrow at 1 o'clock to talk with me? I don't know if you all know me, but I'm not a government guy, and I get a little paranoid even when my friend, the police chief, calls me in to talk with him. I ask him, as natural, am I in trouble? What'd I do wrong? He says, you're not in trouble. I said, if the FBI told you that you couldn't tell me that I'm not in trouble, would you still tell me? He said, yes. So this is a good friend, right? And so him and I came to a conclusion that, hey, we could resolve this. Why don't, and the thing is there were some words being thrown around where, even though I didn't do anything illegal, there were words being thrown around that were associated to the behavior I did that wasn't, that I didn't do, but associated to it, to make me look like I'm a violent, crazy man or something. And that's just not the case. That's the way I interpreted it. And, I went and spoke with Skylar again. I did throw him some FUs at the very end there because I felt like he was giving me the FU. And when you're not even going to invest. So anyway, I called in about a matter. Before any of this had happened, I had some questions about permitting. You all have something that you don't, I call it a permit, and I think that caused some confusion. You call it like a temporary business certificate. It's basically this right here, I think, is the application. And so I was calling in to get some information about this. I was told the employee was on vacation, they'll be back on Monday. So, I waited more than Monday. I waited about a week after that. I called in, and I said, I'm trying to get information about this. I'm kind of getting mixed information whether it even exists. It might be because I'm calling it a permit and it's not called that. And this person eventually said that Tony, I think is his name, Roach, is the person you need to speak with. And I said to her, I don't think Tony's allowed to speak with me based on the information Skylar gave me. So I'm thinking to myself on the fly, what am I going to do here? So I say to her, well, as I remember, let's make that a public records request. And she said, all right, what's your name? And I'd known her name. I liked her name. It's a good name. So I said I identify as, and I used her name as my name. I identified as that name on that particular day at that particular time. They said, I don't know what's going on. I have an emergency, and hung up on me. I took that as granted. I had no intention to make any kind of complaint. None of that. But it was a denial of service of the public records for the second time this year, I believe. And then I got the police chief call me to come in and talk to him. And as friends, it wasn't friendly feeling. We laughed a lot. There were good parts in it. But I today, right now, think, man, if I go and do those things that the police told me on recorded line I could do, that they're now asking me, it seemed like as a friend in an official capacity to not do, it feels like intimidation to violate my constitutional rights. So, we came to an agreement that I thought we had consensus on was a reasonable agreement. Why don't somebody sit down with me and John, and let's just have a conversation. At a minimum, I'd like to hear whether he accepted my apology and whether he does or doesn't want to apologize to me, and if he doesn't, why doesn't he? Now, I just happened to run into John as I was leaving there. I didn't plan it or anything. And I said to him, hey, first I'm peaceful and lawful, and I forgot to say it to you all because apparently that's going to be the best thing to keep me out of trouble with the law, is to let everybody know I'm peaceful and lawful. It feels like the top dog, aside from the trustees, in this township wants to treat me differently because actions I do are weird. And because he used that as justification, like, Rich, what you did was weird. And I said, what's weird to me? This is just my culture, because it's very subjective to say weird. I think he's probably right based on definition, but men dressing up in skirts and then coming up to me while I'm leaving a private business asking me for money, to me it's weird. Now, I've never flipped off any of those people. I never said, you're a weird person or this or that. I've never done anything against them to justify it based on weirdness. But weirdness seemed to be the excuse used to treat me differently. So then I call in, this one lady hung up on me on the public records request. So I went in today. Somebody who I'd written an email to saying, you've always treated me professionally and kind, and thank you for that. Her name is Lori. Provided this to me, no problemo. No problemo. The other person on the phone could have done something similar. But the problem is now, if I wanted to file a complaint on that person, who do I go to? Skylar, who I have an outstanding investigation on based on me, but not on him, who doesn't want to even investigate? No, thank you. That's already been predetermined. I already have a predeposition that government doesn't hold themselves to accountability, and then you put an experience like that in front of it from a guy who says First Amendment isn't a priority to Delhi Township. If it ain't the First Amendment protecting our rights, what is the priority of the township? Building a huge, really nice building that what I can use for this? I mean, it's cold in here. What's it cost to air condition a room? And I'm cold. I don't know about you all. And then we have this really nice gym over here that costs about the same as going to any other private gym. But it's government owned. And so I don't feel like I get any benefit to that. I go to the CRC. I get a year long of service.
Mr. Starks, we're close to 15
for a month
minutes.
of the price.
I was going to say, you've gone 3 times over what you were allotted. What is your main goal? I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to tell us what your main goal is here. What is it you came up tonight to accomplish?
Appreciate that. I believe that one of the best first steps of a peaceful resolution is what I want, a peaceful resolution, and I will remain peaceful regardless, is an open dialogue. That's reasonable, it's logical. I believe Skylar has shut down an open dialogue, and I believe it should be reopened back up. Our last solution between me and Jeff that Skylar went to was that, hey, let's just have an open dialogue. What is it, 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, so that I can talk with the guy who's claiming I made him feel uncomfortable. I can tell you I didn't feel comfortable that day. I didn't feel comfortable that day, and I didn't complain on anyone. I didn't go to Skylar.
Okay, so you want an acknowledgement, you want a sit-down with the person that you keep referring to. Is that what this end thing is that you want?
Ultimately, I'd like him to admit his wrong and apologize to me, but I don't want it if he doesn't think he did anything wrong.
Okay.
And I'd like the Constitution be a priority in this township. I'd like the First Amendment to be one of those priorities. I will, my time's over, so I won't go enough. I appreciate the extra time. I appreciate you listening. And I'm glad to answer other questions. I don't want to say any more, given my time constraint.
Mr. Gages, I got to be honest with you. You broke the record. I have never, as long as I've been serving with Trustee Sturts, seen her allow anyone over that 5-minute mark. So you, my friend, I hope you felt that you were heard and listened to, and I respect what you're saying. The First Amendment thing, I'm not sure what that's all about, but I can't imagine that we all don't realize the First Amendment and all the amendments are priority, and they always will be in this township. I can assure you of that. I do have to say something that's burning inside me. You said I'm not violent, crazy. I'm not a violent, crazy man. Those were your words.
I don't believe I used the word crazy, but if I did, then
you did. I wrote it down as you said it. For me, and I've only spoken with you a couple of times, and I love the passion that you have, and I get it. But you said, well, I wasn't up here, I wasn't looking for trouble, or wasn't whatever, but yet, did you say you were up, like, kind of, not that you can't, but you were looking through the windows at the workers and everyone standing in the garden area, or where were you?
at the time, I didn't realize there were workers in there. I'd never been in that building, not that part of it. I wasn't familiar with it. I was looking to see what's in there, amongst other reasons. And, when I ran into John today, he seemed like he's in a hurry or whatever. And I asked him, I said, do you even accept my apology? And do you think you owe me one? And he said that I didn't really know what was going on that day.
Yeah, I get that point. I'm not going back into that because some of it becomes personnel.
I didn't know what I was looking
and
into
that's
until I
not what
got
we're
up to
here
the
for.
window.
But so you were kind of looking in the window.
Yes.
My first thing, and I don't know any history and things like that, but you know as well as I do how crazy this world truly is, from mass shootings, from people doing stupid, to where if someone didn't notice it or someone didn't, say something to you or try to feel a little bit more safe in their environment, I'd be more concerned at that there was some complacency. Like I said, if I was working and all of a sudden I saw you stand, I'd freak a little bit, like, what is that going on? And in this world, as we talked about everyone's got a firearm anymore. I don't know what you're packing, what you're not, and do you come in peace or do you come? So I can see why some would be a little hesitant to try and engage in some dialogue there.
Yes. If I was one of those crazy people, do you think him treating me friendly would de-escalate my craziness, wanting to do some harm? And I'm not that kind of person, but do you think if somebody came in here right now with a gun to do some harm, that we would be better off treating them friendly, that we might live longer with that gunman if we were friendly to him, or that we might live longer if we were rude, aggressive, and started barking orders at him?
Yeah, I think if they're coming here already in that situation, which I don't pay energy to this discussion, but they're already have their mission and their motive for what they're going to do. So if I sit there and smile and say, please don't, or hey, let's talk this out. Yeah, skilled negotiators, I'm sure that's what we would have there. But
in context, I did none of that.
And I believe that. I'm just talking about if I was working in there.
If he was worried, what he should do is not even confront me. What he should do is maybe keep some distance, keep an eye on me, and call the police. That's my opinion. Hey, come up here. We have somebody that looks suspicious. What you shouldn't do is go and be aggravated. I didn't have the gun, so it's a bad analogy. I was just, remember, I went up to that window. When they came up, I started waving friendly. You might have seen a mouth movement that said hi and stuff like that. And I get down, and he's barking orders at me from the get-go. Not, hi, how can I help you, or anything like that. It's unbecoming of a person of his position. It's the wrong move, what you did, in my
Okay,
opinion.
Mr. Gages, we've heard your case. We've heard your
yeah.
case. We will take it under consideration. We appreciate you coming up here again,
Thank you for listening. Thank you
being
for the
able
time.
to say what you have to say. Thank you. All right. Do we have an announcement of community events?
Yes, ma'am. The Delhi Town Square Lawn Bar is open for business on Fridays and Saturdays from 4 to 9 p.m. As I said earlier, our menu is continuing to grow, and additional amenities are out there each weekend.
Are you looking at entertainment for there, or are they just listening to a radio? What are they doing?
So currently there is radio right now. We are discussing getting some live performances out there. Thank you for sending that contact information for a local group. So hoping to have live performances this in the coming weeks.
Cool.
Yep. 2024 fall softball recreational leagues are now forming. Men's leagues on Thursday nights, starting on August 29th. It is $250 per team. Register online at delhi.oh.us. For more information, call 513-451-3300 or email parks@delhi.oh.us. Upcoming concerts in Delhi Park, presented by Delhi Parks in cooperation with Dominic Athletic Association, Riverview, Delhi Hills Kiwanis, Delhi Skyline Chili, Duber's Carryout, James J. Luby, CPA, Delhi Business Association, Kruger Law, Chandler's Burger Bistro, Jake's Automotive, Delhi Whodunit, Hand in Hand Realty, featuring The Menus on Wednesday, August 21st, and Forever Diamond on Wednesday, September 18th. Concerts start at 7 p.m. at the Delhi Park Performance Pavilion. Food and beverages are available for purchase, no coolers permitted. Kids, Cops, and Firefighters Queen of Hearts fundraiser is every Friday night at Jim and Jack's on the River. This is a 50-50 raffle. The next drawing is Friday at 8 p.m., and the pot will be in excess of $26,000, I believe. You do not have to be there to win. You can buy tickets at Jim and Jack's whenever they are open. You win the same amount whether you're there or not. So support our less fortunate kids in Delhi. Buy some Queen of Hearts tickets.
Actually, Friday it reached 30,000.
Did it?
Really?
Oh,
It's
outstanding.
beyond 30,000 now.
Wow, exciting. Free Friday fishing at Clearview Lake is now through September 28th, beginning from 7 a.m. until dusk. Fishing is limited to designated areas only. This program is limited to Delhi residents only and is catch and release. And finally, the Delhi Farmers Market is every Saturday from 9 a.m. until noon at the Delhi Park, Clearview Lake. Actually, Randy, when's our last?
The last farmer's market is Saturday, August 31st.
All right, Saturday, August 31st. All right, so it's coming up. All right, so go out, come on out and check it out. All right, that's
All
all I have.
right. Thank you. We do have a need to go to executive session tonight, so if we could have the motion, please.
Motion to retire to executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, and/or compensation of a public employee of the township, and to consider confidential information related to the marketing plans, specific business strategy, trade secrets, or personal financial statements of an applicant for economic development assistance and imminent and pending litigation update.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis. Mrs. Sturts.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, this concludes our regular section of our meeting tonight. Our next meeting is August 28th, 6 p.m., right back here. Thank you, everybody, for attending our long meeting. Of executive? We do. We close it after that.
I came in the desk, he went up there, they were walking out that door, going, locking
Yeah, I know when I came through here, this room was